Hello and welcome back to the extreme run of Cold Fear. What to say. Well, this time I'm going to talk about the, remember the bit where I was doing the fly-through of the game assets that I'd exported? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. What I've done for the process of at least doing the LP is that I've created a DLL, which I drop in when I'm playing the game, and that acts as a DirectX hook. You may wonder what this is, and you may not, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It's what cheaters use in games like CS and things like that to see through walls. It basically takes all the information that the game is passing to DirectX, steps in between that particular transfer, and changes it to something else. Now that can be lots of different things. That can be changing render states and things to make things render in reverse. You can pick a specific sort of model. You can sort of distinguish that by the number of primitives and things, or like the number of triangles and things it's trying to draw. Say Tom's model, for example, say requires 256 triangles. It's way more than that, but what you could do is look for that number, and when it happens you replace it with a different model with all sorts of spikes and things, and whenever the player's running around you can see all these spikes and stuff sticking off, and it lets you know where they are. So yeah, that's how you use it for cheating purposes, but yeah, I'm using it for something a little bit more savoury than that. What I've got here is mostly, the most apparent thing at least that you'll find, is the wireframe mode. That's the biggest thing that kind of sticks out for this. It's something that I have to do whenever I'm rendering anything. I just basically throw in the toggle, and all it does is switch the render mode from fill to wireframe, and there's really nothing more than that. That means that all of the wireframe colors and all the background and all that sort of stuff, that comes from the game itself. It's not something that I do. All I do is change one render state and I end up with something particularly useful. What I've also done is, mostly because I can't actually get to the game assets themselves directly, I've no tool to export any of that information into any kind of usable format. I've tried, but it hasn't really worked. So what I've done is, all I do is just step in between the render calls for everything and capture the textures that are being rendered. And all I have to do then is export that just using some standard DirectX calls to save it to a JPEG or a PNG, and then suddenly I've got all the textures in the game. And that means what I have to do is to play through the game, go into each room, tap the button that exports the textures, and then I've got a list of those. And then I just go through them manually and see which ones are actually relevant and see which ones are interesting and stuff. And there have been one or two that have popped up that have things that I've kind of missed in the room. By looking at the texture I can see, oh, is this used in here? And then I can have a little look around. One of them being just on the fridge that's over there, the little horse texture thing. That was one of them. So what else do I do? Well, I export the models as well. That's a lot more difficult. Whenever you're rendering a model in DirectX, it's all split up into different locations. You've got a vertex buffer, which just holds all of the points. Then you've got an index buffer, and that sort of details the order in which you draw the vertices and how they build up the triangles. And then on top of that you're drawing triangles, it's the different kinds of triangle, because you can have a strip or you can have a list, all sorts of stuff. And part of the problem for this game was it took about a week or so just of just fanning around after work and stuff, just trying to figure it out. But at least there's a couple of different ways of rendering all these things, and the game employs quite a lot of them just for optimization purposes and things. But eventually, finding them out, you end up basically with a list of vertices and indices, and then after that you have to get all the information for each vertice. That's broken down into a lot of different things. You've got position, normals, color, UV coordinates and things like that, and you have to, unfortunately that comes down to guesswork, because the major problem that I've got is that I can't get to the shader code itself. There's no way for me to actually, well, there is, but I can't really effectively pick it apart in any meaningful way to kind of figure out what's going on. What I'd like to do is to figure out a way where I can replace the vertex shader, which handles all the animations and stuff for the characters. Then what I can do is just have Tom just running like he is now, and then I can hit a button and it'll export the vertices already modified using the shader code, and applies the animation and stuff that actually happens during the render phase, and then I'd be able to have a little model of Tom, and that'd be really cool. And I could do other things with that, but unfortunately you can't do that, because once all the vertices and all that shader constant information goes to the graphics card, there's not really much more you can do about it. It's difficult to get out. But what it does mean is that I can get the level geometry out, because it doesn't take any sort of modifications. So anyway, that's enough ranting. See you next time.